how does one build a new habit? And more importantly, how does one sustain a habit over a long period of time? Fortunately, the science of habit is very well understood. Most habit researchers, break it down that fundamentally it comes down to this habit loop, which is three parts. The first part is cue. Cue is the initial trigger, something that reminds you that you can take an action. The example of a trigger is the notification on your phone, which is cueing you to potentially look into your phone. Action is what you do when that cue happens. The moment you see the cue, the immediate next step you're likely to take. So in the case of phone, you'll pick up your phone and check into your WhatsApp or email to what the next message is. And the last part of habit loop is reward. Reward is what you do as a result of action you do. So the reward in the example of picking a phone is you get to read that new WhatsApp message. Maybe you are anticipating a message or reply from somebody over WhatsApp or email. So that's your reward. And that tiny bit of reward gives you this dopamine hit. You feel good. In fact, in this example, because the reward itself is variable, you don't know what you're going to get. You might get a reply, you might not. So there is also the built-in anticipation. And when that anticipation gets resolved, the kick is even higher. So every time this cue, action, reward cycle repeat, the habit loop keeps getting stronger and stronger. At some point, it becomes absolute autopilot. The brain already knows when this cue happens, I do the action. So today, most of the time, when you do get that notification on your phone, you are not going to actively think about where you're going to pick up the phone or not. Obviously, you'll just pick up the phone, you will consume your reward, which is the message, you will get your dopamine kick and put the phone down and so on. And, it's crazy how many times this cycle can repeat in a day. When we look at the data about how many times people pick up their phone during the day, it's anywhere from 100 to 200 times. There's literally every 2 minutes to 5 minutes of waking hours. But that's one example. So understanding the cycle, now you can work with this. For any habit you want to work, you'll have to design adequate cues. I'll give some examples. So for not recently, last year, I wanted to build a habit of listening to some of the podcasts that I really like, Lex Friedman and Huberman Labs. So what I did, I designed the cue that, I wanted to listen to podcasts while working out in the gym. And I start my gym routine from treadmill. So what I did was I put the small speaker on the treadmill itself. So whether I remember or not, but the moment I step into treadmill, which is almost a given, I already had the habit of going to gym and starting my workout with the treadmill. So I will see this little speaker that will act as a reminder. That's my cue that I had put in there because I want to listen to podcasts. So I'll, pull out my phone, play the podcast and start my walking. And, during my gym hours, I'll end up listening to podcasts for maybe 45 minutes or 1 hour. Now that I have done it for over a year, it has become an autopilot behavior. I don't need to remind myself. In fact, if for whatever reason that speaker is not there, I look for it because, my brain knows the act of walking to gym, stepping to treadmill is it's expecting, that podcast listening session to commence at that point. So whatever habit you want to build, thinking through in terms of what those initial cue that you can create. People talk about habit stacking. So the idea of habit stacking is that layering a new habit on top of one that you already have. For example, if you want to build a habit of going out for a morning walk, and let's say, or rather, let's hope you have a habit of brushing your teeth in the morning. So that's, something that happens every day. I'm sure you don't get up and think about whether I should brush today or not, or feeling too lazy. It's just something, without even thinking about it, you amble into your washroom, you pick up your brush and, toothpaste and start brushing your teeth. Now, you might forget that you're trying to build a new habit of going out for a walk. So why don't you, take your running shoes the day before and keep it right next to where your toothpaste and brush is, or even put your paste on top of your running shoes. So the morning when you go, you will see, and then you will realize the shoes are there for a reason. That's a reminder, for you to put on your shoes. And if you have a reluctance about, you might feel that you don't have half an hour, 1 hour, you break it down. You say, I'm going to just go out for a walk for 5 minutes. Now, how difficult can that be? Just put on your shoes. You already have your reminder. Your action is going out for that 5 minute or 10 minute walk. And reward is you will feel pretty good, about having taken that first initial step towards building a habit. So we can take those small baby steps. Now, the trick is, it's not going to be easy. In the first few days or few weeks, it's going to be difficult. Chances are you might forget to do this next day. So, that 6 to 8 week window is very crucial. Most habit researchers, talk about the fact that it takes anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks to build a new habit. So we need to have very strong regimen for those 6 to 12 weeks. You'll have to have some kind of internal accountability mechanism, or even better, external accountability mechanism. What is external accountability? You can have, let's say, you want to build a habit of working out, and you can sign up somebody in your circle saying, we are going to work out together. Now your buddy can hold you accountable. That day you don't want to work out, that person wants to go work out. Other way, what a lot of people do is you sign up for a personal trainer for 2 months, and you ask the person to show up at your doorstep, every day at 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. or evening 6 p.m. if that's what you want to do. Now you have somebody else to be accountable for. Even if you don't remember, this other person reminding you becomes your very strong cue and also accountable threshold. So with that, if you are able to do, you will notice subtle changes within few weeks itself. You will start to feel that internal tug or pull to do that activity, and that's a sign of that habit is starting to form. So it's about creating those cues which act as a reminder or accountability, taking that action. And it's also important to reflect on that. So now imagine you are able to do your first class, second class. Take 5 minutes at the end of that workout class and remind yourself that this is a new behavior you are able to do. Try to recreate the emotion of feeling happy for having taken the action which was very hard for you. So that will create that positive dopamine feeling, completing one loop of cue, action, reward. Reward being you patting yourself on the back, reminding yourself that now you have taken the first step towards a habit you want to build. Looking at a much longer time horizon, the way I see the habits play out, it's 3 distinct phases. When you decide initially that you want to build a habit, you have to rely a lot on willpower. That's not easy at all. That's where most people struggle, and therefore creating very, very powerful cues and creating very strong accountability mechanism and deep diving into your own willpower is going to get you past the initial hump. If you are able to do that for 4 weeks, it will start to show some signs of being autopilot behavior, but you are far from done. But you are somehow able to continue for another couple of months, the habits start to become fairly robust. And then from there on, habit will take over, and assuming no major break happens and you are able to continue this for say 6 months, 12 months, over a long period of time, it will start to become part of your identity. When it becomes part of your identity, then it's very, very difficult to break the habit. For example, someone whose identity is that of being a vegetarian, they will never get tempted to have some non-veg food for fun. In fact, they'll go out of their way to make sure they avoid. Similarly, people who don't drink, it's part of their identity. I'm kind of getting there, so I gave up drinking alcohol last year. It was definitely not easy. Again, took me many years to get to that point. But after giving up alcohol, and first 3-6 months, I would still get tempted. For me, the cue was, a lot of time I travel. When I'm, go back to my hotel room by 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., nothing else to do. And that's a very powerful cue to either use the hotel room minibar that most hotels these days have, or through room service, order a drink. But I had to fight that urge, for a while. But now it's starting to become part of my identity, and I'm coming close to nearly a year of not drinking. And I think if I can continue for another year or so, I'll become somebody who does not drink. Then there is no temptation. It does not matter whether social occasion, we are celebrating something, or walking into a hotel room, or I don't know, doing a winery tour in Napa Valley. It doesn't matter, what that is. So this whole journey of relying very heavily on willpower, over first few months, translating that willpower into a habit which will be an autopilot behavior, and taking the habit all the way to your identity. That's probably most robust way of ensuring that habits becomes deeply ingrained part of who you are.